Hello and welcome back to Bookish. This is going to be a long one, so I'm going to do this little introductory piece right here and then show you the show card so you can see what types I'm covering, and then there will be timestamps below, so if you don't want to watch part of this, you can skip ahead to the parts you want to watch. Also have a question for you. Anybody else have to drink their coffee when it's incredibly hot? For me, unless it's really hot, it's just not the same. Okay, so there are a lot of things I want to cover in this Saturday Hodgepodge video. Unlike my latest ones, this one's going to be, as I said, kind of long. And almost everything in this video has been in some way inspired by other videos I've watched this week. So the first video I want to talk about, and the first thing I want to do is I want to do the, what makes a great author tag, or what makes an author great tag, which was created by Doris over at Aldi Books. I'll leave a link to her channel and her video down below, and essentially she took the idea that I kind of like randomly introduced last Thursday about how I decide what makes a great author, and turned it into a really great tag. And so one of the things I love about the BookTube community is when that happens, and then when more and more people can talk about an issue or talk about a topic, and I can see all their answers. But she's asked some really specific questions here, so I'm going to work my way through the tag and through those answers. So question number one, a great author whose works you've read in their entirety. A great author whose works I've read in their entirety, I think the only person that I come close with that with is Patrick O'Brian, because I've read all 21 of the Aubrey Maturin novels, which are historical fiction set at sea on British fighting ships during the 18th and early 19th century. And most of those books are excellent. There are 21 of them, and I've read all of them. Now, O'Brian did write some nonfiction, I believe, which I have not read, so I'm not sure that he actually qualifies. Question two, a great author who's a one-hit wonder. I'm going to go with Thomas Boyd. I've mentioned Thomas Boyd on this channel many times because Thomas Boyd is somebody I researched and wrote about, and he wrote a book in 1923 called Through the Wheat, which was a real sensation. It was a book about based on his experiences as a Marine during World War I, and in lots of ways it was a groundbreaking book about war and modern war in the United States. He went on to write 7 or 8 more books, fiction and nonfiction, but the only one that really was a hit, the only one that's really lasted, the only one you're going to be able to find a copy of probably is Through the Wheat. And it is really, for the time period, it was published in 1923, really exceptionally honest and direct in its attitude towards war and modern war and what World War I was like for American soldiers. And so I'm going to choose that one. Question three, a great author who had a flop or two. I talk about Hemingway all the time on my channel. One of the problems I think with tag videos sometimes, and tag videos about great authors, is you're going to hear me talk about authors that you hear me talk about quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and mention Hemingway as a great author, who I think had lots of flops, and he had lots of flops. The only one of his novels I haven't read is The Torrents of Spring, which almost nobody reads or regards highly. To Have and Have Not is an absolute mess. Across the Hills and Across the River and Into the Trees, well, I always get the name wrong, yeah. Across the River and Into the Trees is with some exceptions of some beautifully written scenes, really bad. And then his posthumous novels are also pretty bad. So he definitely wrote some flops, even though I think he is a great author. And his name's going to come up again later in this video. Question four, a great author you read when you were young. I think my answer is the same as Doris's. That would be Tolkien. I really love the Lord of the Rings series. I imagine that Doris and I got the exact same box set of the Lord of the Rings books along with The Hobbit, and I read and reread them, and I've said this many times on my channel. When I was in my early teens, even up through my later teens, I would just finish Return of the King, and then I would just start Fellowship of the Ring again, and I probably read them like that. It's kind of like in cycle, going through, I don't know, 7 or 8 times when I was in my teens. Question five, a great author whose works are considered classics. There are lots of authors you could go with here, but I decided to go with an author that fewer people have read, who I definitely think is a great author. It has classic works, and that's George Gissing. I just finished New Grub Street, and I have read The Odd Women by him. Both of those books are Victorian classics, and he is, he was a great author. Question 6, a great author with a cutting-edge novel. Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway, great author, cutting-edge novel. I think that Valeria Luiselli's book, The Lost Children Archive, is cutting-edge and great. My friend Mark Nash introduced me to David Markson's books, and I think the novel of his I read is cutting edge and great. And I like novels like that, and that's not the only thing I like to read, but I do like cutting edge novels. Question 7, a great author whose work you consider impactful. I'm going to go here with Hemingway, and I'm going to say something which might upset a few people who might happen to watch my channel. No American author has had a greater impact on the future of American writing than Ernest Hemingway. When you read Hemingway, his way of kind of stripping the story down to its essentials and leaving things unsaid, that whole iceberg theory of writing, and writing, declarative sentences. People think they're all short. They're not. Declarative sentences. His way of doing that really changed the way, and his popularity and his reputation changed the way Americans wrote. And so you can see his influence on writers, American writers and writers outside the United States. For instance, Gabriel Garcia Marquez was a great fan of Hemingway. You can see his influence on writers, throughout the 20th century and carrying over even into the 21st century. And I can't think of a writer who's had a greater impact than Hemingway, at least not, in the 20th century. Prompt 8, a great author of nonfiction. I went with Candace Millard, my favorite kind of popular history writer. River of Doubt, about Teddy Roosevelt's almost death while exploring the rivers in the Amazon rainforest. She wrote a great book called Destiny of the Republic about Garfield's assassination, which I thought was really good. And I read, I forgot the name of her new book, but it's about Richard Francis Burton's attempt to find the source of the Nile, really good. And I also mentioned Brian Greene, the science writer who wrote The Elegant Universe, and another book, follow-up book about quantum physics that I really enjoyed. I thought those were both good books, and I thought Brian Greene was a really effective writer. Number 9, a great author you just don't enjoy reading, Thomas Hardy. I can accept that Hardy is great, and I did enjoy Far from the Madding Crowd. I thought was very good, but in general I don't enjoy reading Thomas Hardy. And then prompt 10, a great author you have reread or want to reread again. That would be William Faulkner, because I have read and will reread Faulkner's novels as a part of Faulkner in August, and I always enjoy them, and I always enjoy rereading them. So Doris wants us to tag people, so I'm going to tag Mark Nash, who I mentioned in the video. I'm going to tag Brandon from Brandon's Bookshelf. He left a comment about this on my original video, my Thursday video, and I'm going to tag Jen from Remembered Reads, all three of whom I think would have really good ideas and really good answers and really good notions about what makes a great author. Okay, so the second thing I want to talk about is a video I saw on Olly's channel, Criminale, in which he was putting stickers on his computer. And he said some things about stickers which really just like triggered memories in me and kind of an old man story. So I'll leave a link to Olly's channel in the video down below, which he thinks is not his best video. Hang on. Which he thinks is not his best video, but I really liked. And he talks about how people of my age, and I think he's younger than me, but people maybe in our age group look on electronic devices as these really important things, and we don't see them as disposable, so we have this kind of reverence for our computers and our phones, and we don't put stickers on them and things like that. And that really resonated with me. I never put a sticker on a laptop. I've had many laptops, and I've never put a sticker on one, and even the thought of it kind of makes me think, a sticker on my laptop? But in addition to that, he mentioned that one of the problems he has with getting really cool stickers is he doesn't want to stick them to something and then, that's kind of it. Once you peel them off and stick them to something, the possibility of sticking them to something else, I guess, is gone. And this reminded me, here comes the old man story, this reminded me very much of when I was a child in elementary school, which was way back in the 1970s. One of the companies that sold bread, I think it was the Sunbeam Bread Company, put football helmet stickers in their loaves of bread for a long period of time. And me and my friends collected those, and we were so obsessed with collecting them that we would go to the lunch ladies in the morning who were preparing lunches and ask them and stand there while they opened the loaves of bread they're going to use in making lunch, and they would like hand out the stickers. And these were really weird stickers. They were like a fabric sticker. They were like woven somehow. Once you stuck them to something, you were not going to get it back up. So I remember stressing about which stickers I was going to stick on my notebook and which ones I were going to save. Here's a picture of what one of them looked like over here. And so what Olly said really, resonated with me. I thought I would say something about that. And then also Brandon, again from Brandon's Bookshelf, did a video about AI and essentially how he thinks that artificial intelligence will one day write a truly great work of literature, that AI will develop these great works of art. And he kind of, expressed concern about this and will this drive out writing by human beings, I think, and then the possibility of using AI to pretend that you're a real author or a person who's writing, and how that will affect publishing and reading and all those kinds of things. And I do have some thoughts about that. Brandon is a far smarter person than I am, and he knows way more about this AI thing than I did. I'll leave a link to his channel and his video down below. But what I would say is that I have a tendency to always take a middle position on things. So if you tell me, and this is not exactly what Brandon says, but if you tell me that AI is going to ruin literature and writing, and human beings will stop writing novels because AI can do it better, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Not that you're wrong because AI might not actually achieve and be able to do it better than human beings, but I don't think that will stop people from writing. And the best example I think of AI proving to be truly superior to people is in chess. Chess computers can beat most of the grandmasters, unless the grandmasters or the world chess champs do something incredibly unusual off book and just somehow catch it by surprise. And the reason why AI is better at chess than human beings are is that artificial intelligences can run through all the possible positions, all the possible moves, and the possible outcomes in a matter of seconds, and people just can't do that. So that literally is about computing power. Now, the AI technology that Brandon's talking about is constantly being fed examples of writing and literature, and you can, according to how Brandon talks about it, he shows examples of videos, you can give it a prompt and it will write something in the style of an author, or it will write a certain type of story, and it does this all based on predictive logic. So the thing about AI is that no matter how sophisticated it gets, it has to come down to a yes or a no. As far as I know, there's always a yes or no decision to be made. Its decision making is always going to be binary. And I think that binary decision making, even learned binary decision making, even developing binary decision making, like YouTube algorithm, all these other things, it still comes down to this is the best option, this is not as good an option. And I just don't think that will ever perfectly be able to replicate what human beings do. In particular, if we're talking about writing better literature than human beings, I have no doubt that AI will be able to produce, and I'm not meaning to demean any kind of work or anything like that, will be able to produce, works of commercial fiction that rival in quality and seamlessness and plotting the work of, purely commercial fiction writing. I'm thinking here about, the kind of romance books like the Harlequin romance books. I'm not trying to run those down or anything like that, but they are incredibly formulaic. And the more formulaic the type of writing is, the better I think AI will be at it. But when you when I think about great works of literature, what I think about are works that are transgressive, works that are different, works that, to use a a chess term, works that go off book, that go, leave, behind the tried and true methods, that do something unusual. When I think about great works of literature, that's what I'm thinking about. I've been talking about Hemingway in this video already. What made Hemingway different is that he didn't do what others had done. He did something different. So where I question AI's ability to replace human beings in terms of producing literature is being able to produce the unexpected. Can it learn to be unpredictable in a way that works to make a work of literature great? I have my doubts. And the other thing I would tell you is that just because AI got better at chess, is better at chess than human beings, doesn't stop people from playing chess and doesn't stop people from competing in chess. So I'm not sure, even if AI got to the point where it could produce great works of literature, that would stop human beings from writing. I think that language and words and telling our stories in one way or another is just hardwired into the human system, and I don't think we're going to stop. Anyway, there's my answer to kind of Brandon's video, which was a great video. Please go watch it. By the way, Brandon and I disagree about any number of things, but I enjoy those disagreements so much. So thanks to Brandon for making that. And then I think the only other thing I have to talk about here is my weekly reading. So I finished one book already this week. By the way, I'm filming on Thursday, not Friday. My daughter and my son-in-law are in town, and my granddog is here, and it's kind of tumbled up my filming and editing schedule. So I'm filming this on Thursday. I finished one book, and that was Piranesi by Suzanne and Clarke, and I really liked it. I was immediately engrossed in the story. I was immediately trying to understand the world in which Piranesi lives and to try to figure it all out. And it's not, and I think that I essentially did figure it all out, and I can't tell you more than that because if you haven't read it, if I tell you too much, it gives away the whole thing. But essentially what we find is a man who is known as Piranesi is living in this incredibly large house whose lower floors are constantly flooded by the sea, and he's had to learn to live as like early humans, fishing, hunting, making his own things, scavenging. There's only one other person who is apparently living in the house who he refers to as the other, and that relationship is a really important one for the rest of the story, and I can't tell you very much else about it. But I did think it was incredibly engrossing. I thought it was really inventive. I thought it did that thing I think that a work of fantasy, and that's what I'm going to call it, does that really effectively. It explained just enough of how things worked without trying to go into too much depth. So I really thought it was pretty great. Would I necessarily thought it was the best book I read in the year in which it came out? Probably not, but it probably would have been in my top 10, near my top 10. So I really liked it. The other book I'm reading and will have finished by the time you see this is The Age of Iron by J.M. Coetzee. This is a buddy read that I'm doing with Olly, commenter that sometimes shows up as Fox Folios. Anyway, I've known Olly for several years, and we seem to oftentimes have, I think, fairly similar opinions about things, and so this is our first buddy read, and it's just been great. She knows far more about Coetzee than I do, and has read more of his books, so it's great buddy reading it with her. The book itself is, I think, kind of what I think of as what Coetzee does best, and that is he just kind of throws you into the story. He gives you a character that you're going to follow, but that character is not necessarily always admirable, may end up not being completely admirable. He puts that character in difficult situations in which there's almost never a clear right and wrong. And if there is, sometimes that character doesn't do it. The book is set in South Africa while apartheid is still going on, but that system is decaying, and they're trying to work out how that exchange is going to take place and what South African society is going to be like. There are no characters who are purely heroic, who always do the right thing so far, and so it has just been really engrossing and really enjoying reading it. And I may have more to say about it once I finish and talk about it next week. And then also, I think this will probably be my last read of January. I started The Idiot by Elif Batuman, or Batuman, which I've only read about 20 pages of so far, and I will say I'm enjoying it. It is one of those books which makes me feel like, it's based on experiences that, younger people would have experienced and not me, and a world in which I don't necessarily have a lot of relationship to, but it's funny and it's arch already, and I'm really looking forward to finishing that book up. Let's see. I think that's it. So there you go. There's my Saturday Hodgepodge for this week. Look forward to your comments on any of the things that I talked about in this video in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you for watching.